welcome to my podcast. This is, once again, the JOYFull podcast, my raw journal of the mindful revolution. My name is Ethan Sherritt, and I am not perfect at all. I need a lot of work. I went looking for inspiration, and I found inspiration. I found it in so many ways. It was humbling, thrilling, inspiring. I mean, it kept me going. It kept me alive. It kept me striving. It kept me thinking there's like the next day was always going to be better than the last, because I was hearing that same message from so many people, and never at any time in my life had I just been showered down with positivity. And not only positivity, I think positivity is kind of a word that's gonna not be used as much. Like, I first got into kind of trying to awaken my mind and enlighten myself to what is truly possible in this world. I started that thinking that it's all about thinking positive. And it reminds me that I posted this, man, I don't even know if I know how to change that the biggest part of your Facebook page, like the background, I guess they would call it, the background picture. But to this day, mine just says positivity in the biggest grandest font you can imagine. And I think it was from that day I was just like, I'm going to be nothing but positivity, because I see the difference between thinking positively and not thinking positively. So the reason I think that is part of it's going to kind of go away as I don't know, maybe it's like a first phase thinking positive. That's what it seems like. It doesn't seem like a phrase of the past, but it just seems like when I was really focused on making sure I was positive about everything. Hey, there's my intro music again. Yeah. Some good jamming on the Venice Beach oceanfront with 12 drummers and musicians and people shaking various things. It's where that music comes from. It's amazing. What was I just saying? Positivity. It was an intro for me to so many more questions that I had and still continue to have that are answered, and each one of them just by, I guess, the asking of it, and sometimes getting an answer, and sometimes this is what really happens frequently, is you will, if you're on this path and you are seeking, you're I know that God, the universe, the source, prana, the source of life, whatever you want to call it, I know that wants that we're here for this fleeting moment to either make that a good thing for your existence or a bad thing. And we know that there's a welcoming arms of those welcoming, invisible yet live arms of the universe, of God, of the connection between all of us, that wants you to be exuberantly connected, alive, loving, happy, proud, alive, the most alive that you can get. The very thrill of life. You're supposed to actually feel that consciously. That. It's somewhere in your soul, that. And there's questions that you have of why that's not happening. And when I say you, I'm talking about me. Not why, and sometimes we have moments that we feel I have always had moments of being in touch with that, because it comes in little times, ebbs and flows of sometimes you have this memory of the perfect, day of summer vacation with your friends, or the perfect time at a concert when everybody was just vibing, or that one day at church where there's a beautiful song being sung and you swear tears were in everybody's eyes, or a football game, or that moment when you were first in love. And we've touched that, but now at a conscious, mature level, you want to actually embrace that, like bring it about and connect to it in an awakened, conscious choice state that is empowered by you and embraced by you from the power that has been given to you. So there's little questions about why are those things not happening, and that's kind of the road of the seeking or the enlightenment, or why you put on another inspirational podcast, why you get another self-help book. Oh man, I just listened to 2 minutes of this really cool book. I think it's cool. I listened to a few minutes of it, but man, the author of this book said, I totally lost my train of thought because I'm looking at this book cover of my son's. On that book cover is actually a little dude playing a guitar, and on that guitar that he's playing is a bird, and he's standing in the grass. And the name of that book is I Am Peace. It so happens to be a book about like a kind of a young adolescent kid learning how to meditate. And Jack really liked that book even 1 year ago, but we haven't read it probably in almost a year, like 10 months maybe. So the book I was talking about said, unlock your inner badass. Like, you are a badass. Oh, the self-help books. Oh, it was hilarious. The things she rolled out, how much money she spent on coaches, different self-help courses, and she was like, dude, how long can we keep doing this? That's the seeking, and I personally think that you should award yourself for doing those things. If it hasn't clicked yet, if it hasn't clicked you into that now you've made it, boom, there it is. You've achieved the oneness, the aliveness, the power of God that is that is there and that you're trying to unleash. If you haven't achieved that yet, then keep on striving, keep asking the questions, and that's a huge, massive part of humanity and a massive part of all of us that is a very cool thing to relate to each other about. Just that significant striving, that significant quest. Let's relate to each other about the quest if we can't freaking answer it. I do that all the time. It seems to be like almost like a handshake to people who don't seem exuberantly happy and like awakened or enlightened or following exactly their ideal path. People on the grind. It seems to be like a really human handshake to give, is like this kind of through line, this vibe that just says, I don't blame you for not finding the gold on the top of the mountain or whatever, because it's not easy for me either, but I'm trying, brother or sister, and I appreciate you for appreciating that. What an intro that was. I didn't even get to introduce the reason I stopped doing so many podcasts is because I would think about turning on the microphone, like when I'm going to do that, and then I would immediately think, what am I going to say? And the going to say thing is like, I either have to plan it out perfectly or I just have to not know what it is I'm going to talk about. And just thank you for listening. Are you listening? You stopped listening. Are you there? Oh, you're still there. Thank you. You have been such a support. It just feels good to use that throat chakra. That throat chakra. That's something that we all need to make sure we're keeping clear by speaking our voice and speaking our mind and doing it often enough so that we recognize our own voice. Right? Often enough so you recognize what's you. You are needed. You are needed in this world. And if your voice is not heard, then the world is deprived of you. It really is. And that's what some smart people I was listening to today said, actually. Listen to something else that was... I would listen to another self-help podcast earlier tonight. It was really good, you guys. I gotta share this with you. And I talk about podcasts so much on this podcast. This one was another one by Brandon Beacham, the Positive Head podcast. He and his guest, he had a really cool guest on today, one of his friends. But Brandon said, if you want to keep on that, he said, start telling yourself really good stories about yourself. We can be really creative about, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but we can be really creative about how we should kind of keep ourselves down in check a little bit, and how we should be a little bit sad, how we should do more for some other obligation or something. We tell really good stories about why we should be small. And he said we should see if we can be more creative about telling yourself why you can be large, why you can be why you can be a bright light, why you always have been. And he said you can keep on going in this yin and yang and this balancing and ebbing and flowing, or that's fine. That's what I was talking about. I guess that little handshake of solidarity through the struggle. I like that. I'm never going to lose that, but I think I'm never going to lose that. But it really resonates that. Or you can just say, you know what? Let's write down some awesomeness together. I'll write awesomeness about me. You write awesomeness about you, and then we can groove on it together, because the world needs you and me and that guy over there. There's a lot of people that may not have the voice ever. That's something we'll have to come to. But the more people you can empower, the better. And I don't really think you'll be able to do it until you empower yourself. And that being said, I'm not wanting anybody at all to feel down about anything they've ever felt. Because right now is the moment that has come to through everything that's happened. And it's going forward, and what you want is a thrill going forward. So be thrilled. Be thrilled. And don't kick yourself at all, because you're awesome and you're perfect. You're awesome and you're perfect. You're perfect even if there's a lot of work you're going to do on yourself because you think you're not perfect. Well, that part of you is perfect. That freaking part of you is perfect. Oh, I believe that. So, let me finish my intro to the podcast, all right? Before it's time to end it. I had tea also. Where's my tea? It's now lukewarm tea. I love it when I have tea. I had no tea for the last couple of days, and I guess over the last couple of months I've grown to really like it. So I was saying, my name is Ethan Edward Sherritt. In a time of need, I went looking for inspiration. I found it everywhere. I realized that we are in the dawn of a new age of enlightenment. Learning, sharing about self-accountability, mindfulness is everywhere. It's a revolution. It's evolving humanity in a way that hasn't been done before. That's what I'm really excited about. Sometimes you get to kind of feel that, like, right now, the things that are being shared through, like I was talking about, the books, the self-help books that are everywhere. It's almost like there's as many people writing these things as reading them. And they are filled with, like, the laws of attraction and ideas of inner growth in order to succeed within yourself. Trust, faith in the world, faith like that's required, and the evolved brain that is programmed to doubt, to build doubt, but the doubt has to be overcome through learning, exercise, and study. There are principles that are abound every bookstore now. Every bookstore. How many bookstores are there? Barnes and Noble. Every Barnes and Noble. There are used bookstores that some people like, that I like, to be honest. I just don't know where one is in Richmond. I'm sure there is one. Barnes and Noble, I was in the other day, and and I asked for this book, and the girl said, "Yeah, it's over here in this section." And it was like this huge, like half the length of the store aisle, about books that all could have had like variations on the same title. And it's true that I've heard people say that, actually when I lived in when I first moved to LA in about 2003, I remember a pretty small section of this used bookstore, and it had books about like inner strength and kind of like tied in with this mysticism. And definitely they say in like the 80s and as late as the 90s, these books, you had books about like learning to be more confident, believe in yourself, but you didn't have those really common themes of laws of the universe and connecting to like your vibration, your highest vibration, finding the truth in your voice, because like that's what God wanted. Like, you didn't see that type of thing except for like in I don't know, like mysticism, shamanism. Like it was like it wasn't as prevalent, for sure. And now it's like this big movement. And the internet, it can be a hive of villainy and very bad place if you are getting yourself down the wrong rabbit holes. But the internet has also made people share this that we're talking about here, this enlightenment, so much that never before has this amount of sharing been possible about anything. And what's really grabbing hold is the sharing of positivity, love, ways to improve yourself, how that's going to affect humanity, the challenges that has been to people up until now for not understanding this, like the sheer data about the people who haven't been exposed or may not be exposed for a while because of poverty or language restrictions or governmental barriers to them learning. Like, there are people that have been challenged to be reached by this, but never before has it been so easy. And it's like a wildfire of awareness that can be shed. Like, every conversation you have, somebody might either be like, "Oh yes, I'm down," or "Oh really, that kind of rings a bell with that one wacky friend I have that changed his outlook on life, kind of reminds me of that. Maybe there's something to that. That's where I'm at right now. I'm in this kind of place in the South, in Virginia, that it's a city, really cool city with some cool people, cool things going on. But I think I've said this in another episode. I've never been at a place where there's so many people here that are from here, like from right around here. Those are like, I interact with a lot of people that either have never traveled or have traveled very seldom and haven't lived outside of the state ever. And so it's funny, like I feel like my audience or a lot of the folks listening are people who've been all over the place and read a lot of books and stuff like that. But my peers, who I spend a lot of time with throughout the day, is that the definition of peers? My environment, the people of my environment, my circle that I interact with for my job, at the store, at the, wherever you go. There's a lot of the culture of that has been just built around here for the people who have stayed here. So I do, for that reason, I'm like this fisherman, like casting that reel into the water, like hoping for a conversation, like a spark of conversation that just doesn't give me like a blank stare of like when I throw in some kind of more. When I throw it, my microphone keeps falling down. Sorry if that was really loud. So I'm like fishing for good conversation and fishing for like a connection about something that I find stimulating. And sometimes it seems like there's not a whole lot of bites, like in the fishing comparison there. Sometimes it doesn't seem like there's a bite. And sometimes I feel like there's no fish at all. But I keep on trying. And you never know when, frog is going to turn into a fish. I don't know where I was going with that. But thank you for listening to the JOYFull podcast. I can't just keep on talking about the intro, can I? Yeah, I guess it's all the intro. This whole thing is an intro today. This is just the intro episode. I usually give 3 different facets of this show, of each episode. 1, my personal experience of what I'm going through. 2, a discipline or method or practice, or something that I'd like to share, to teach. And 3 is a cultural observation of some type, about a movie, art, news story, something like that. All right, number 1, let's get right to it. Number 1, what's going on with me? I'm trying to get over like this sinus thing, I think. Do I sound different? I sound a little different to me. There's been some kind of sinusy thing. I got what's called a neti pot, N-E-T-I pot. They have them at all the drugstores, Target, and everything like that. It's just like this little blue thing, this little plastic blue apparatus. You're supposed to put lukewarm water in there, and you mix. It comes with like 50 packets of this little mixture. It looks like a fine white powder, like almost like fine salt crystals, like very fine salt crystals. You dump it in that lukewarm water in that pot, and you swirl it around until it kind of mixes up. And you stand over a sink, and this is to clear your sinuses out. And it's not too gross, don't worry. You stand over a sink, and you tilt your head to one side, and you jam that thing up your nostril hole on the other side, and then you just breathe. It says you have to breathe with your mouth open, and I guess doing that is the trick. If you breathe with your mouth open, that water goes up like your nasal passage and comes out the other nasal passage, and you just keep on doing that, and little by little it starts to feel good. So I've been doing that, and I recommend it, and I recommend myself that I do it too, because I've done it a couple times now. It seems like I've made improvements, but I still have that thing. So that's what's going on with me. Actually, I let me tell you what's really going on. So that's like a little health, but I have the same day job, like real estate, renting apartments, managing multifamily apartment buildings. Great job, great, wonderful people I work for and with, and I have man, getting to work when I want to get to work is like the hardest thing for me historically. I'm not saying it's going to be tomorrow, because every single day I tell myself I'm never gonna like be behind schedule again. I'm not saying every day, because tomorrow is going to be different, but every day until now I've said I'm never going to rush, I'm never going to be behind. And I'm not rushing until, sure enough, 45 minutes before I wanted to be at the office, I find myself rushing. I am rushing again. And I'm like, damn it. Why am I doing this again? I'm behind schedule. And sure enough, now I catch myself and I'm calm about it. And I'm like, well, did it again. I'm behind schedule. What am I going to do? I guess that's just the way I am. And I was trying to say, is there any possible way to be successful or happy if you get someplace at the last minute all the time? Doesn't success mean you're there 30 minutes, 20 minutes beforehand, and you're prim and proper, and you didn't rush anything? I think not rushing is great, and for almost the entirety of the morning I'm not rushing at all, but for the last 15 or 20 minutes, I am rushing. I'm as Russian as Boris Yeltsin was. It was a bad joke, and it was bad because I couldn't think of that wacky Russian president who's sitting now. I still can't think of his name, and I'm glad about that. And I don't have a co-host that looks things up for me and makes little jokes. I'd love a co-host. If anybody's listening to this who lives in the area or can pipe in and wants a 50-50 share of the profits of this podcast, please give me a direct message and we can make it happen. But you would be the one who looks up things on the internet real quick, as we say them. That would be one of your functions, as well as all the jokes. You'd have that other function too. Deal? All right, 50-50 cut. Let's do it. We'll be 100 airs. Maybe. So that's what was going on with me, even as recently as last week. Just what is it going to take for me to get lunch packed, get Jack to daycare, get stuff out into the van in time, get it, it just takes and we're talking about I would feel better if I were 10 minutes earlier every day. That would be this relaxed state. I remember preaching to the audience of this podcast, I remember preaching to you a long time ago about how the trick of peaceful, relaxed mind is not rushing by making sure you're on time, giving yourself enough time. That just goes to show that we talk about what we want to do, but that doesn't necessarily mean we do it. Definitely in my case. Uh, but once when I kicked myself probably harder than I had ever in the morning last week, and I just said, screw it. Maybe I'm just like the guy who, hey everybody, I'm glad you got here 15 minutes ago. Good to see you. How about this? I always get here 15 minutes after you do. How about that's just a covenant we make right now. And if you really, really accomplish so much in that 15 minutes that makes you an entirely different asset to this organization, then you deserve a raise. But I am also equally as asset-y to the organization. But I was kicking myself one day, and I was like, how can I still have a productive day? Anyway, I turned a new leaf, and I just started doing other projects at work that are actually turning out to be pretty cool. That, the last week or two have given me some new excitement for being expansive. I think in my podcast next week, I'll be talking about expansiveness and limitless expansiveness that I'm learning about in another book. But it was kind of cool that just came to my head, is that I've been focusing on expansiveness. Expansiveness. It's a state which, through a certain chain of logic, there's certain reasoning, kind of makes sense that it's our only satisfied state is when we feel limitlessly expansive. And it makes sense. Don't think it's impossible, because literally, like the theory of studying the universe, like the theory, the universe keeps expanding beyond the math to measure it. Therefore, the theory is that the universe is expanding, and there's no definition for it. It's just like, what is it expanding into? Like, it just is. It's just, that's the math of it. So it doesn't have to make sense, like mathematically to you. It shouldn't scare you, but just like feel safe that if you're seeking like limitless expansiveness in your life, in your thoughts, in your actions, whatever, that's a good thing. So work projects, they were good, and I'm happy with that. That's what's going on with me. Taxes. That's pretty exciting thing to talk about. Way less tax refund back this year than from last year. They say that there's new tax laws. I guess that just you get less tax money back. And maybe that means the government keeps more of it from now on. That's good. That's probably why the schools are all getting better and teachers are getting paid more, hopefully. So that's good. The second thing was a discipline or method that I try to teach with you. This is not so much a discipline or a method, but a tool. A tool that I really want to share with everybody. This is the app, Meetup. Have you heard of it? I'm sure you've heard of it. On the Meetup app. Well, I got on that like a few weeks ago just to see like what interest there is in this area of mindfulness. And man, there's like all these groups. There's like 3 or 4 like little groups and get-togethers and different yoga studios like posting things of free or donation-based only classes. There's a group meditation that I started going to. It's some guy named Ed's house. He's an amazing guy who's like a real teacher. And he is having people over at his house, and I'm sure that's going to spawn other people doing that, at their houses. And you can do that yourself. And it's something I'm really excited about how to use that tool over the next year, to bring more episodes, more enlightenment, more connection, and more fun. But get on Meetup. Whether you need like just fun in your life, somebody watch movies. Why don't you just, if you just like watching movies or something, you can start a club on there that says like must watch movies, because people have to put their, it's not like random. You can like have questions that people answer in order to be in the club. You can see their pick, and it's not a club, it's just like you can say, I'm, for everybody who's in this membership group, once I click that you're accepted, then you can be made aware of where we're going to meet, do hikes with, get coffee with. So I've gone on a couple of these, just to this one meditation group. Actually, I've done the meditation group at the house and one at a yoga studio from this. So please get on that. That could change your life. And if it changes your life, it changes the world. That's what this whole bit is about. Your life is the world. So get on that. That's the second thing. That was pretty easy and concise. The third thing is the cultural observation that I'd like to bring about and kind of, pipe off my opinion about something or my thoughts about something that's going on. And nothing is really coming to me. I haven't observed anything lately about the world. Have I? What's going on in the world? We have let's see, there's like finger pointing on different sides of politics. There's isn't there a war someplace, or like escalating tensions someplace? I think there are escalating tensions someplace. There are people calling for the impeachment of other people and accusing others of corruption. And let's see, teachers are underpaid. There's that. I need to have good things to share. Good things. Those are just common, like always things. Those are the reasons why I don't actually have any observations. Well, I'll just read with you this little thing that's I read. Actually, that I wrote. It says the path is equally significant to the destination if the method, the state of mind, and the purpose are true. Then the resulting arrival is simply in the affair and the care of the divine energy, God. And on this path, we can unite with the source. So it's the path where you unite. The result is really not any of our business. That's something I've heard quite a lot. It's interesting that it said if the purpose is true. How do you know if your purpose is true? Well, if the result is anything but good, then the purpose maybe wasn't true. Maybe that's like an actual test of what. And the purposes are like all over the place. I've had a million different purposes, and some of them just seem so silly right now. Like looking back, I'm trying to look back a little bit less than I used to, because we've all done some some things that just, by nature in the past they should not be as evolved as they are now. So I've had some purposes that definitely weren't true. Let's see, I don't know why I was talking about civil disorder. President's Commission on Disobedience. Oh, that's notes from the Martin Luther King episode. So I guess I haven't talked to you guys since before Christmas, and except the Martin Luther King episode. So thank you for listening to both of those, Brian, and actually both my listeners, Kate, Brian. I appreciate you guys both. So I should wrap this up, and next time I'll try to get more of an observation of the times. And if you think of something you'd like to for me and my potential co-host to comment on, please message that to me. Just follow at Ethan Sherritt Official on Instagram and send one of those messages. Say, why don't you talk about this, or what do you think about this, or something, because I can look it up and I can formulate thoughts about things. It's something that I'm capable of doing if I get enough time, and an internet connection. Anyway, I should wrap up there. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope that you know that you're awesome. You're so very, very capable of being exactly something that you can't imagine now, but that you're thrilled with. I'm thrilled with your potential. I'm thrilled with what I already see in you. I am. And you are too. And find that, and do not kick yourself for not being that all the time, and ebbing and flowing. You can ebb and flow, but we want you to glow a lot, and work on that glow. Do things that I've been. I have something I'll talk to you about next time. It just occurred to me, but it's about time. We're about out of time, but keep on glowing and keep on growing. And I'm gonna leave you with a song by. I don't have a song lined up at all, man. Sorry. Just listen to this one song that was on my mind. I listened to this song on a loop for some reason. It's by Bastille. It's the guy who goes, I want you to be happier. I want you to be happier. He has another song called Pompeii. And you just kick that song. I can't play it anyway because they wouldn't publish the episode. But put in Bastille and then put in Pompeii. The name of the song is Pompeii, as in like the place where the volcano blew up. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. God bless and namaste. But if you close your eyes, does it feel like nothing changed at all? And if you close your eyes, does it always feel like you've been here before? I'm making to be an optimist about this. I'm making to be an optimist about this. Do you feel me? All right. God bless. Good night.